Beringia was home to an odd and familiar mix of diverse and peculiar species during the last ice age. During the cold glacial times, the woolly mammoth, steppe bison, scimitar cat, caribou, muskox, and grizzly bears roamed the treeless plains. When temperatures were similar to today's, giant beavers, mastodons, and camels browsed the interglacial forests. In this video, various animals, including these, are discovered. The Jefferson's ground sloth is possibly the oddest critter known to live in Yukon. Tree sloths, which can still be found in Central and South America, are distant relatives of these remarkable creatures. The sloth family started in South America and traveled northward 5 million years ago through the Isthmus of Panama. During the Ice Age, several species of ground sloth thrived in North and South America, but only the one named for former U.S. President Thomas Jefferson made it all the way to Yukon and Alaska. A fully mature Jefferson's ground sloth measured up to 3 meters in length and was roughly the size of an ox. These massive ground sloths were herbivores, despite their intimidating look. They may have used their large sharp claws to defend themselves, but they were probably better adapted to gripping food on higher tree branches. They stripped leaves from bushes and tree branches using their long, blunt, peg-like teeth. Like its tree-dwelling relatives, Jefferson's ground sloth walked slowly and awkwardly on land, with its feet twisted around so it was stepping on its ankles and baby toes. Ground sloth fossils from Jefferson's time can be found throughout the western United States, the Great Lakes region, and Florida. Caves were most likely utilized by Jefferson's ground sloths for safety from the environment and hungry predators. The Shasta's ground sloth, one of their distant relatives, is famed for the extraordinarily thick layers of fossilized feces it left preserved in caverns throughout the American Southwest. An individual Shasta's ground sloth's bones were still linked by ligaments and cartilage in another stunning find from a cave in Tennessee. On the sloth's finger, there was even a mummified fingernail. The cause of the extinction of these ground sloths around 11,000 years ago is still a source of scientific discussion. Only one site in North America has provided Jefferson's ground sloth bones that appear to have been killed by humans, indicating that overhunting was not the cause of their extinction. Many people consider the woolly mammoth the most famous Ice Age monster. These massive hairy elephants were made for life on Yukon's mammoth steppe during the ice period. A woolly mammoth was roughly the size of an African elephant, standing slightly over 3 meters tall at the shoulder and eating over 200 kilograms of grass every day. Complete frozen woolly mammoth carcasses have been discovered, providing extensive insights into the life and appearance of these legendary beasts. Some physical traits have been connected to specialized adaptations to live in the cold, such as thick hair, small ears, and a short tail, designed to reduce heat loss. Like many other Ice Age gigantic species, woolly mammoths died out as the climate warmed towards the conclusion of the last glacial period. According to fossils from North America and Asia, woolly mammoths vanished from the mainland roughly 12,000 years ago. Surprisingly, they managed to thrive until approximately 4,000 years ago on small Arctic islands off the coast of northern Siberia. Imagine a zoo entire of bear-sized rats. The Ice Age gigantic beaver was quite enormous. The giant beaver is the world's largest rodent, measuring up to 2 meters in length and weighing 100 kilograms. The giant beaver has been discovered in fossil sites all over North America, but it is most commonly found near the Atlantic coast and slightly south of the Great Lakes. The banks and cliffs in the Old Crow and Porcupine rivers in northern Yukon are widely known for fossil incisors the size of bananas and molar teeth of enormous beavers. Long ago, the Vuntitquitchin of Old Crow's traditional traditions include stories about the vast beaver. Contrary to popular belief, giant beavers are not simply enormous forerunners of today's modern beaver. The last time the giant beaver and current beaver species shared an ancestor, according to the fossil record, was around 24 million years ago. Despite this, their bone forms are similar to a modern beaver, but more significant. The back feet of the enormous beaver were also massive, allowing them to comfortably paddle over ponds and lakes. On the downside, their reduced rear limbs made walking on land rugged. Based on the size and structure of its tail vertebrae, the giant beaver's tail was narrower than the current beaver's wide flat paddle. The earliest radiocarbon-dated giant beaver fossil in North America is roughly 12,000. It is unknown why they went extinct, as with many other cold period mammals. There is no evidence that enormous beavers were hunted. Maybe they couldn't adjust to the changing habitats that came with the end of the Ice Age's abrupt climate variations. Other semi-aquatic rodents may have outcompeted them, such as modern beavers or muskrats. The Beringian lion, a member of the well-known cave lions from Europe and Asia, was the giant and most shared cat in Yukon's ice period. Beringia's lion fossils are smaller than the rest of Europe's cave lions, implying that they constitute separate subspecies. Even though their historic ranges may have overlapped in the ancient Near East, the Ice Age lions of Eurasia and Beringia are genetically separate from the species that subsequently created the current African lion. During the middle of the Ice Age, lions substantially expanded their range outside of Africa, eventually emerging in Europe and Britain some 500,000 years ago. When lions crossed Beringia and initially came to North America is unknown. According to genetic research, they may have lived in Alaska roughly 300,000 years ago. Around 150,000 years ago, some of these lions made their way south into the United States mid-continent. After millions of years of separation, the southern population evolved into a separate species, the American lion, owing to continental ice sheets. In modern times, lions are the only large cats that live in pride. Because tigers and leopards do not live in groups, scholars believe that lions began to live in groups roughly 2 million years ago, near the beginning of the Ice Age. Scientists are still searching for evidence that Beringian lions and their Ice Age forefathers lived in pride. Short-faced bears were the largest mammalian land carnivores in North America during the Ice Age. When walking normally, these bears stood approximately 1.5 meters tall, but when standing on their hind legs, they stood about 3.4 meters tall. They could have reached a height of more than 4.3 meters. This animal is almost 1.5 times the size of today's Kodiak grizzly bear. The short-faced bear has a unique evolutionary history, given its enormous size and appetite for meat. The spectacled bear, which lives amid the trees in the mountainous regions of western and northern South America, is their closest living relative. Like the ice-aged short-faced bear, spectacled bears have short, broad faces, but are almost entirely herbivorous, favoring leaves, fruit, and other vegetation. Is it a mammoth or a mastodon? Many people mix up these two names for giant hairy Ice Age elephants. Despite their near resemblance to elephants, these two species are totally different mammals. The ancestors of the American mastodon split from the mammoths some 25 million years ago. They traversed Beringia on their trek eastward from Asia some 15 million years ago. As its name suggests, the American mastodon first appeared in North America 3.5 million years ago. During the Ice Age, the American mastodon had an extensive geographic range, ranging from Arctic Alaska to the tropics of Honduras, and never returning to Asia. A few distinguishing characteristics can help you distinguish between a mastodon and a mammoth. Both appear to be fuzzy elephants on the surface, but mastodons were significantly smaller and had a stockier build. The tusks of mastodons are shorter and straighter than those of mammoths. The structure and function of their molars are probably the most noteworthy differences. The almost flat surface of mammoth molars is utilized for grinding and shearing grass. Low, rounded cusps covered in hard enamel formed a pair of rows that identify American mastodon molars. These teeth were perfect for snapping and eating shrubs and small tree twigs. A mammoth was essentially a grazer, but a mastodon was a browser. After the last glacial epoch, not all typical Ice Age animals became extinct. The steppe bison is one such mammal. Bison from the steppes persisted until recently, giving rise to today's plains bison and wood bison. Despite having the same body proportions as modern steppe bison, Ice Age steppe bison had much larger horns. Bison bonosus, the ancestors of steppe bison, originally arrived in the grasslands of Europe and Asia during the early Ice Age, nearly a million years ago. Bison is a well-known North American mammal, although they were not present on the continent for much of the Ice Age. Mammoths and prehistoric horses controlled the North American terrain for almost a million years. When steppe bison first entered Beringia some 160,000 years ago, they quickly became the most abundant big animal in North America. They spread as far south as Mexico from Beringia. The oldest bison fossil identified in North America is a fragmented piece of fossil footbone discovered on a steep bluff along the Porcupine River near Old Crow in 2006. The saber-toothed cat is perhaps the most well-known Ice Age emblem, although this predator is only found in more southern portions of North America, ranging no further north than southern Alberta. The more widely spread scimitar cat is arguably a better fit for the Ice Age world's famous predator. The scimitar cat is frequently confused with its saber-toothed cousin, but the size and shape of their enormous canine teeth distinguish the two. The scimitar cat's upper canines are smaller, serrated, and dirk-shaped, whereas the saber-toothed cat's top canines are more prominent and saber-shaped. Both animals would have been formidable hunters, but only the remains of the scimitar cat have been discovered in Yukon yet. According to DNA extracted from a Yukon fossil, scimitar and saber-toothed cats are members of an extraordinary and now extinct branch of the feline family tree. Paleontologists have been trying to discover how these cats lived, how they utilized their massive canine teeth, and why no descendants have survived, resulting in the extinction of scimitar and saber-toothed cats. American scimitar cats have strong limbs, a long, robust neck, a small, stocky body with a slanting back, and a short tail. Their sharp upper canine teeth appear well adapted to quick bursts of speed and deliver a precise, lethal bite. However, the scimitar cat seems unable to compete as food populations changed and other, less specialized predators arrived, owing to its technical, precise hunting methods centered on medium-sized animals. Peccaries have a long evolutionary history in North and South America, and they are distantly related to European and Asian real pigs. The flat-headed peccary was roughly the size of a European wild pig, with a shoulder height of about 75 centimeters. Peccary skulls from the Ice Age reveal a tiny brain with keen senses of smell and sight. Their enormous nostrils and nasal cavities may have filtered the dry, dusty air sweeping across the Ice Age environment. The Ice Age flat-headed peccary can be found all over the United States and as far south as Mexico. Peccaries are frequently seen in small herds or groups. In Texas, Missouri, and Kentucky, petrified remains representing entire herds of flat-headed peccaries have been discovered. At Bat Cave in Missouri, fossils from at least 98 individuals were found together, implying that the cave was used by herds over a long period. A pack of flat-headed peccaries was discovered dead in a dust storm near Hickman, Kentucky. The petrified skeleton's positions suggested facing the wind, but the dust eventually got its best, and they died. Like many other substantial Ice Age mammals, flat-headed peccaries became extinct around 11,000 years ago, near the end of the Ice Age. There is no indication that Ice Age humans hunted them to extinction. They may have been unable to adapt to the sudden climate changes, and their populations have never recovered. Elk are deer relatives whose roots may be traced back to the Ice Age in Eurasia. Their characteristic antlers with the doubled-bottom tine first appeared in Europe's fossil record around 400,000 years ago. Elk were well adapted to the ebb and flow of the seasons, both warm and cold. Their fossils date from earlier in the Ice Age, when trees and shrubs were more prevalent than grasslands, and, therefore, more widespread and extensive. Nonetheless, elk fossils from the Ice Age's harshest periods, when trees were sparse, have been discovered in some areas. Elk are herbivorous generalists who prefer open forests with various grasses and green plants to graze on. Their capacity to thrive in multiple conditions was probably the key to their survival when the Ice Age ended. Snow depth and exposure to harsh weather or limiting factors governing their dissemination presently. The absence of elk is clearly linked to a high average annual snow cover,